Maybe he thought I wouldn't say anything. That's the part I keep coming back to. He walked into my kitchen like he owned it, poured himself a glass of my sweet tea, and told me, not asked me, that he'd already spoken to a realtor. I was 68 years old, standing at my own stove, and my son-in-law was explaining to me what was going to happen to my house. I let him finish. I've learned, in 68 years, that the most powerful thing you can do is let someone say the whole foolish thing out loud before you respond. He talked for nearly 10 minutes. About the market. About how it was a good time to sell. About how the neighborhood wasn't what it used to be. About how a 2-bedroom condo closer to my daughter would be more practical. Practical. That word sat in my chest like a stone. I've lived in this house for 31 years. My husband and I bought it the year our daughter started 2nd grade. We repainted the living room 4 times before we settled on a color we both liked. A warm cream that caught the afternoon light just right. When he passed, 8 years ago, I kept the color. I kept the garden he planted along the back fence. I kept the wind chimes on the porch that he picked up at a flea market in Savannah because he said they sounded like Sunday mornings. And now my son-in-law was sitting at my kitchen table telling me it was time to be practical. I haven't talked to any realtor, I said. He smiled. Patient, the way you smile at someone who doesn't understand. I know, Mom. That's why I took care of it. She's coming Thursday to do a walkthrough. Mom. He's called me that for 12 years and usually I don't mind it. That afternoon it landed differently. You scheduled a walkthrough of my house, I said, without asking me. We've been talking about this for months. He set down his glass. You said yourself last Thanksgiving that the yard was getting to be too much. I said the yard was a lot of work for one person. That's not the same as saying sell it to a stranger and move me into a condo. But I didn't say that yet. I just nodded and told him I'd think about it, and he seemed satisfied with that, and he finished his tea and left. I stood at the kitchen window for a long time after his car disappeared down the street. The yard didn't look like too much to me. It looked like everything. My daughter called that evening. She had what I recognized as her careful voice, the one she uses when she's already agreed to something and is now trying to get me to agree to it too. Daddy would have wanted you to be comfortable, she said. I thought about that. Her father was a man who, every Saturday morning for 30 years, made 2 cups of coffee and brought one to wherever I was in the house without being asked. He knew the difference between taking care of someone and taking over for them. Your father would have asked me first, I said. Silence on the line. Then, we just want what's best for you. That phrase. I've heard it so many times in the past 2 years from both of them that I've started to hear what's underneath it. We've decided what's best for you. We're going to do what's best for you. You don't need to have an opinion about what's best for you. I told her I loved her and I'd call her tomorrow, and I got off the phone, and I sat with my dog, a 12-pound beagle mix named after nobody, just a dog I picked out myself from the shelter 3 years ago, and I thought about what I was actually going to do. 'Cause here's what they didn't know. What I hadn't told anyone. 6 months earlier, I'd started taking a real estate class at the community college. Just to understand things better, I told myself at first. Because after my husband died, I realized there were 100 things I'd leaned on him for that I now needed to understand myself. Insurance, investments, property tax appeals. I'd gotten pretty good at understanding things. And what I understood, sitting on my couch that night, was that my name was the only name on the deed to this house. That no realtor could list it, no one could sign anything, no one could do a single thing with my property without my signature. I understood that a walk-through on Thursday was just a walk-through if I said so. I also understood something else. Something I'd been thinking about for a while but hadn't let myself look at directly until now. My son-in-law's name was on a rental property across town. He'd bought it 2 years ago as an investment. Nice little house, 3 bedrooms. He rented it to a young family, collected the checks, had my daughter handle the bookkeeping because he said he was too busy. I knew the address. I knew the property management company he used. I had learned, over the past 6 months, quite a lot about how these things work. I got out my notebook and I started writing. Thursday came. The realtor was a pleasant woman, professional, clipboard in hand. She pulled up to my house at 10 o'clock sharp and I was waiting on the porch. I offered her coffee. She accepted. We sat in the living room and she asked me questions about the square footage, the age of the roof, whether the HVAC had been serviced recently. I answered every question. Then I said, I appreciate you coming out, but I won't be listing the house. She blinked. Oh, I know what you thought, I said gently, but the property is mine, and I've decided not to sell. I'm sorry you made the trip. She was gracious about it. Left her card. Said to call her if I changed my mind. I didn't call my son-in-law that day. I didn't call my daughter. I let Thursday pass, and Friday, and I waited. Saturday morning, my son-in-law called me. I heard the walkthrough didn't go well, he said. The walkthrough went fine, I said. I just told her I wasn't selling. The silence that followed was a particular kind of silence, the kind that comes before someone recalculates. Mom. His voice had shifted, no longer patient. We've already put a lot of time and research into this. There are 2 condos we've identified that would be. I'm not moving, I said. This is my home and I'm not selling it. You can't maintain a house this size by yourself. I maintain it just fine, the yard alone. I hired a neighbor's grandson to help with the heavy stuff. $20 a week. It's handled. Another silence. Then, we're just trying to help you. There it was again. I took a breath. I know, I said, and I need you to hear me when I say, I did not ask for this kind of help. You scheduled a realtor appointment for my house without my knowledge. That is not help. That is making decisions about my life without my consent, and I won't have it. He didn't say anything. I love my daughter, I said, and I want to have a good relationship with both of you for a long time. But that requires that you treat me like an adult who is capable of running her own life. Am I clear? He said he'd talk to my daughter. I said that was fine, and I hung up. I want to tell you what happened next, because this is the part people never expect. The following week, I made some calls to the property management company that handled my son-in-law's rental. I wasn't doing anything underhanded. I want to be clear about that. I had a real estate license now. I'd passed the exam 2 weeks before he sat in my kitchen and told me about the realtor. I hadn't told anyone because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I just wanted to know things. But I called the property management company as a newly licensed agent, asked a few professional questions, and found out what I needed to know. The family renting my son-in-law's property had been quietly looking for a new place. The lease was up in 3 months, and they weren't sure they could renew. He'd raised the rent more than they expected. They were good people. I'd met them once, at a neighborhood thing. 3 kids under 10. I had a colleague from my real estate course, a woman I'd become friendly with, who had a listing coming available. 3 bedrooms, right school district, rent they could actually afford. I made an introduction. I didn't say anything about who owned the property they were leaving. I just helped a nice family find a better situation. When the lease wasn't renewed, my son-in-law found himself with a vacant property and, as it turned out, no tenant lined up. Carrying an empty house costs money. Property management fees don't stop because the rent does. I didn't do it to hurt him. I want to be honest about that, even now. It happened the way it happened. Good people needed help. I was in a position to help, and I did. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about the kitchen table when I made that call. My daughter came to see me about 2 weeks after all of this, alone without her husband, which told me she already knew things had shifted. She brought flowers, grocery store tulips, orange and yellow, the kind she's been bringing me since she was a teenager with her first job and her first sense of what it meant to make a gesture. I put them in the blue pitcher on the windowsill and made us both tea, and we sat at the kitchen table. She didn't bring up the house right away. We talked about her work, about a book she'd been reading, about whether the weather had finally turned for good. It felt careful, but not unkind. Then she said, "He overstepped. I know that." I waited. "I should have said something earlier," she said. I kept thinking. "I just wanted you to be. I got scared when I thought about you here alone and I let him run with it, and I shouldn't have." My daughter has her father's face. Same lines around the eyes when she's being sincere. I looked at her across the table, and I saw the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, and I thought about how much I loved her, which is different from agreeing with her, but it's also bigger than disagreeing. "I'm not alone because I'm in trouble," I said. "I'm alone because your father died, and that's a different thing. I'm still me. I still know how to run my own life." She nodded. Her eyes got bright. "I don't want you to manage me," I said. "I want you to call me on Sundays. I want you to come for dinner sometimes. I want you to ask me how I am and actually want to know the answer. That's what I need from you." She reached across the table and took my hand. She held it the way you hold something you almost lost. We sat there for a while without saying anything. The tulips were orange in the afternoon light. The wind chimes moved on the porch. I thought about my husband, the way I always do in this kitchen. How he would have handled things differently. He would have been louder about it, probably, quicker to say the hard thing. But the outcome, I thought, would have been the same. Some things are not negotiable. The right to live in your own house, make your own choices, be seen as a person rather than a problem to be solved. Those are not things you hand over just because someone loves you. Or says they do. The condo listings my son-in-law had bookmarked are still saved somewhere on his phone, I imagine. I don't ask. What I do know is that last month, my daughter helped me plant a new section in the back garden. We put in lavender and black-eyed Susans along the fence, where the light is good in the afternoon. She got dirt on her knees and complained about it, and then laughed at herself, and it was the best afternoon I'd had in longer than I could say. My son-in-law and I are cordial. Maybe one day it will be more than cordial. I'm not closed to that. But cordial is honest, and honest is where you have to start. The realtor left her card on my coffee table. I eventually used it, called her up, told her I was in the business now, asked if she wanted to grab coffee and talk shop. Turns out she's been in real estate for 22 years and knows things I haven't learned yet. We've had lunch 3 times. I passed my exam. My license is active. I don't know what I'll do with it exactly. Maybe nothing more than understand my own situations better, which was the whole point from the beginning. Maybe something more. I have time to figure it out. That's the thing nobody talks about when they talk about getting older. You don't run out of time to become something. You just stop letting other people tell you who you already are. I still make my coffee strong and drink it on the porch every morning before the neighborhood wakes up. The wind chimes are still there. The dog still sits on my feet. The garden is still mine, and I'm not going anywhere.